Business is not easy. There's more people that fail. We all know that there's more people that fail in this than succeed at it. And so be patient, be kind to yourself, be tenacious, work hard, dig in. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to blow up in your face.
Welcome back to the Mark Faris Experience. I'm your host, Mark Faris. Today, we are speaking with Paul Mercer. Paul is the founder and CEO of ileftmystuff.com. It's a really cool company. It's such a simple idea, and he's blown this up into be a massive enterprise. So he oversees 17 staff, and it's just a really cool story, Paul. I'm really looking forward to getting this conversation with you.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share where we've come from.
So, Paul, we met. You're a client of Fair's team, and we had met at the Barrie Home Show, and we had this conversation as where it started. And it's tough. You have people all around you, and you're getting in. And you're telling me a little bit about your story. I'm like, oh, Paul is definitely a guy that we want to hear more from. And it's such a simple idea. This idea, ileftmystuff.com. And so if you just go to the website and check it out, you're like, okay, I wonder what this interview is going to be all about. There's a video on there. It's like a 1-minute video that explains it very simply. And so, Paul, can you maybe go back to the origin story of, what got you into business, and then where did the idea come from on ileftmystuff.com, which is based around, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. If you ever forgot anything at a hotel, well, Paul's company is probably going to fix that problem. It's a very niche problem that he figured out a solution to. But Paul, I gave a little bit of a snippet there of what the company is, but maybe you can give us a little bit more on your backstory.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. So going back, my background is actually with UPS. I spent 15 years with UPS, started out as a driver and had a bit of a career with them into sales and whatnot over the years, and got hired away from them to go work for one of the largest same-day courier companies in the country, and kind of transitioned out of that, not necessarily of my own design, if you will, but obviously there seemed to be some things at work there that had us leave that and start our own company. So back in 2009, I started essentially a courier consulting company. We would go in and kind of my expertise at UPS was helping companies resolve challenging situations from a logistics perspective. And so we had an opportunity to kind of go out and do that on our own. But where I Left My Stuff came into the picture was in 2012. My wife we have a large family, so you can probably relate to that, Mark. So on one of those opportunities to escape and get some sanity back into our marriage, we took off for a couple of days and ended up down at a hotel, and Lena left a shoe behind. She always tells the story that she sure wished it would have been some really nice, designer brand shoe, but she always jokes that it was an orthopedic. We were out shopping the day before, her feet were hurting her, so she went and bought some brand new shoes to walk around the mall in, and so that's kind of how things got started. She left that shoe behind. We feel that there was a little bit of divine intervention there, because how do you buy a brand new pair of shoes, only put one of them in your bag, and it's only a couple of day getaway? So it wasn't like we were gone for a week or a month or anything like that, right? It was just a couple of days. So just a couple of small bags, throw your stuff in and go. But anyways, she left that shoe behind, and she said to me, "Hey, courier boy, can you get my shoe back?" Once we discovered it wasn't there. So I called up the hotel and said, "Hey, any chance you've found a shoe in our room?" And they said, "Actually, yes, we did find the shoe." And so I said, "Great, can you ship that back to me?" Now it's funny, and we'll go through some of these interesting situations maybe over the conversation, but we've now to date had, I think, about 12,000 hotels register with us over the years. Of course, not all of them have become active, and with the pandemic, a lot of them kind of disappeared and people changed, and we're working our way back. But This is the only hotel that I've ever come across that actually would not ship things back to guests because they had had so many problems with items disappearing, guests being frustrated. You charged my credit card and I didn't give you authorization. So they just said, we're not doing that anymore. We'll hold it here for pickup. So you can come on back and grab that. And we said, well, I'm not going to be back in the area, but hey, I have a courier company. If I emailed you a label,
Yeah.
and do you think you could find a used box that you could just throw the shoe in, and I'll email you the label, I'll contact the courier to come and pick that up? And she went, oh my gosh, that would be absolutely fantastic. So she said, yeah, I do that, no problem. So I kind of hung up the phone thinking everything's good. And I went, wait a second, I can't be the only guy that's left something at a hotel. So I called that hotel back. It was a 450 room Marriott property, and said, is this a big problem for you? And she said, it's a massive problem. We probably 450 rooms. We have 200, 250 items left behind on an average month. And then when a guest calls us looking for something, we've got to, take their address information. Now we've got to call the courier company, get a quote, call them back. Is it okay for us to charge your credit card? Yes, I'll pay $20. Great. Give me your credit card number. And then I got to go over to accounting, and deal with all of that. So I thought, man, I can solve this problem. We'd actually built an application for one of our partners in the other business that allowed their team to be able to use their discounted courier rates for their teams. So they could set up their own account, and at Christmas time ship things using the business's account and their discounts. So I was actually able to use that application to send the email out to the hotel, and they printed out the label, paged UPS to come and pick it up, and we're back. So that's kind of how we got started. The name literally came to me in that moment. ileftmystuff.com. I quickly ran over, checked to see, is ileftmystuff.com available? Yep, it's available. And then,
That was a
interestingly
God thing
enough,
right there. It was available, right? That's
well,
a
that's
really
just it.
solid name. Some companies, they'll pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars for the right domain. Like whatever that is, that's a perfect name for that was available is a big thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I snagged that literally within the hour of having the conversation with the hotel. And then we went through the process over the next month, as we were talking through this, the scope of work and how this was going to, how we were going to build the application, all that kind of stuff. And we went through, I don't know, maybe 20, 50 other names, and every other name that we checked, like you said, gone, 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 gone. It was just, in my opinion, a little bit of divine intervention that name came to me, and we checked it. It was available. And then everything else that we came up with was not available.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I left my stuff. It's easy to remember. It's simple. There's no like sort of like weird words that you got to spell one way or another. And .com, I mean, easily to have .ca, but .com is the big one that you really want, right?
exactly.
So it's pretty incredible. So over 9 million items processed. You've had over 1 million items shipped back to guests as of, was it 2025? So at the time of this recording, 2025. So moving forward. So it seems like you're growing at an immense rate, and you are, I mean, you're handling a massive, as the lady had said on your call, this is a massive problem. I could only imagine being a hotel owner, and this is just like a pain in the neck. And so tell us how it works. So when let's say a hotel, they find something, which, I've been guilty of this in the past. I forgot something, and now I'm in my special mode. When I go to the hotel, I'm like, okay, I don't care who's checked. I got to mentally do a full walkthrough under the beds. And I in the safe, I got my system, just like when I was playing hockey. I'd always have my triple check before I would drive, because I learned my lesson driving 3 hours away to a hockey game, and I forgot my skates, and so I never did it again. But so for you, so take us through the hotel finds something. Okay, somebody forgot something. What is the website like? What does your company actually do to actually fix this problem?
Yeah, so we're really an inventory management system with the courier component bolted on. So when the hotel finds an item, they will go to our website and they'll log into their account and they will log the item into the database, where it was found, who found it, what is it, complete description, all that kind of good stuff. So once, if you left your sunglasses behind, you call up and say, hey, I think I left my sunglasses in the room. They go, yes, Mr. Faris, let me have a look. Yeah, we've got your item here. Let me grab your email address. And so at that point, they'll click the email button. That'll send a link over to you where you can now put in your address information. It'll provide you with some service options. Do you need it next day? Is it keys for your car, keys for the house, your passport, sunglasses, whatever it is? Now you can pick the service level. You pay for it at that time using your credit card. And once that's completed, it sends an alert back to the hotel to let them know that the guest has processed their return and the item is ready to be shipped out. So they'll pop in, they'll click the print button. It produces the label for the courier and pages the courier to come to the hotel to pick up the item. Yeah. So it
Oh,
automates all that functionality. So
wow. It's
yeah.
so smart. It's so smart. And you were just traveling and the idea it came, wow. It's so smart. And so I mean, this is a big problem across the world. Like, where do you see this going? You see this going global?
Oh, absolutely. It's a global problem. The challenge for us is certainly on the courier component. Having the ability for items to be returned because they don't always, the guest makes mistakes and they don't put the correct address in and it can't get delivered. They're not home, whatever the
Right.
case may be. So you've got to have return locations and that type of thing. So those are the only things right now. And we're working on that. Prior to the pandemic, we were pretty close to opening up Europe. But that got squashed with everything that went on across the world. So we're back into that
Hmm.
conversation right now about how we can open up. But we ship all over the world. Of course, people are traveling into Canada and the U.S., which is where we provide support today. And so we ship all over the world right now. And hotels can use our application in other countries, not a problem at all for inventory management. We just don't have the courier side built on at
Hmm.
this time. So,
Hmm.
mhm.
Well, with that kind of number of people and hotels using it, I'm sure, like, I mean, the credibility is there where you're going to get, the major chains have come on board. And so now it's just a matter of, get working out logistics on that end, which is really exciting. So just for a little bit of context here. So one of the things that as soon as you had the idea, you went and bought the domain. What was the next thing that you did to actually get this business off the ground? Because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they have great ideas, and like
Mhm.
great ideas are a dime a dozen. There's probably any idea you've come up with. There's probably 100 other people in the world that thought about it. The main difference is, are you going to be like that one person that actually has the persistence to actually get that idea into working concept, work out the kinks, and actually launch it and be successful with it? So you went and bought the domain. What else did you do to get that business off the ground and to actually make it like a working product? Because I think that's the big question a lot of entrepreneurs is like, I have this idea, but how do I get some momentum going with it?
Sure. Yeah. I think the next thing, in fact, the very next thing before the afternoon was out, we called, I think it was 40 different hotels across Canada and the US to find out, is this a common problem? So market research, right? Just, is this a real problem? Did we just kind of stumble across one hotel that, doesn't know what's going on in the world and they don't know there's a solution out there? And frankly, there's about 45,000 of those that I think still exist there in the US that don't know that there's a solution today, because that's the response that we get from them is, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? This has been a nightmare for us.
Yeah.
And it's a free application for the hotels. There's no cost to them whatsoever. So it's really a no brainer. But Yeah, it's really, and I think the big thing is, and we fell into this category as well. And I think this is an entrepreneurial thing where you see this, oh my goodness, this is going to be massive. It's, especially in, 12, 14 years ago, the internet was certainly well underway, but there's still massive amounts of opportunity, and there's still massive amounts of opportunity. So you think, oh, this is going to blow up overnight. Well, it didn't quite blow up overnight. It was quite a bit like most traditional businesses. You see where it can go, you see the opportunity, but it doesn't quite pan out exactly the way that you had anticipated. So it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more effort. It's a little bit more challenging, but in the end, it's worth the fight, right? You see the value, the opportunities there. You just got to hang in a little bit longer
Mm.
and keep fighting. So,
Paul, what were some of those challenges early on that you had to overcome?
interestingly enough, it's it was the hurdle that they had to get through where this is free. What am I missing?
Yeah, right.
I don't
Right.
understand. It's funny
Yeah.
because the very first partner that we had on board took some time. It happened to be the Deerhurst Resort in
Mm.
Cottage Country in Ontario, Canada.
Yeah.
It just so happened that my brother played hockey with the director of operations for their property, and they were kind of on the list of hotels that we would talk with. But it just so happened that conversation came up, and Ken was sharing this exciting thing that we were doing with Brody, and it took Brody quite a bit of time. In fact, being in the change room, you're a little more direct, as you well know, with your buddies.
Yeah.
And, so Ken had to be a little bit direct on, on there's there's no catch here, Brody.
Yeah.
There's no catch. Just sit down, listen to what he has to say. There's no catch.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the challenge. And we still have some of the bigger challenges we have today is people moving around. We get, so close to having some really big strategic partnerships. And all of a sudden your internal champion changes on you. They move into a different role and you're like back at square one. So we've probably had a number of situations where we've been within a week or two of signing a deal with a hotel company where they're going to make it mandatory across all of their hotels. And at the last minute, where did so and so go? Oh, they're out in the field now as a GM, or they've gone into this position, and you're starting over again. So those are the big challenges. I think most people get what we're doing. They see the challenge that they have in front of them. The incredible thing that we find challenging is to get our partners to recognize that we're really the last touch point,
Right.
right? We're the last conversation that they have with their guest. And it's a lot. There's a lot of guests that are impacted. In the US, you're going to see 100 million items lost at hotels alone every year. That's 100 million people that are going to be impacted by this. And the hotels have traditionally found this to be a very challenging and difficult problem to solve for their guests, very labor intensive, very challenging. And so they still have a little bit of that mindset. And so we're still working to get them up to speed that, hey, you're already sending a guest. Every single guest gets a survey email, and they're probably have received that survey email before they've even realized that something's been left behind. So now this really is your last touch point, and it's a great opportunity to solve a problem for a guest that you didn't cause. It's not that the room wasn't clean or that the air conditioner's not working or whatever the situation is. You've done everything on your end. Now you get to solve a problem that you didn't cause, and get that opportunity to become the hero. And so
Yeah.
it's really getting them to see that, hey, there's a massive opportunity. We see hotels that are proactive in notifying a guest that, hey, you left something behind in your room. And even if it's not something the guest is particularly needing to get back, maybe it's a $5 power cord for their phone. Just the fact that they go, whoa, wait a second, this hotel has my back. If I were to have left my laptop or my passport or something more serious, I'd certainly want to know. And some hotels are getting that. Some hotels are missing that wonderful opportunity to provide an incredible guest experience. And so that's a bit of the challenges that we're trying to figure out how to better communicate with our partners.
That's really good. Paul, I was at a conference one time and Daniel Pink was talking. And one of the things that he said was that although first impressions are very important, his whole thesis is that the last connection that you have with a customer is going to be your highest leverage point of service. And so if you do that really well, they're going to remember that ending more than the middle, and actually more than the beginning. Now, the beginning is important because you got to make a sale. And a lot of times with the first impression, you don't get a shot. But once they make that decision, you're ending that last contact is really important. So maybe you get a quote from Daniel Pink there and send that along with your literature. It's like Daniel Pink said that the last touch is important. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the big question that the listeners would be having right now is, so the business model, what's the revenue like when it comes down to how do you generate as a business? Who pays for the service? And I think that's where, Brody that was in the change room is like, what ended up, it's like, okay, so where do we take something on the mailer, the coordination of that, or like, where is the business model, so that it's like you can actually keep the doors open and continue to provide this service?
Great question. Yes. So we have a small margin that's built into the shipping cost that goes back to the guest. So we have negotiated preferred rates with our courier partners, and in some cases we again add a little bit of a margin on top of that, and then we bill the client. So that's really where our revenue
Genius.
comes from, is the shipping component itself.
Oh, it's so smart. It's so smart. Wow.
Mm.
It's such a good example of finding an opportunity when you're out there and then taking action and making a business out of it. And so
Mm.
your background would have really given you a competitive advantage on that. You already could probably see the solution because you've built that in your previous role. You built something similar to that. Like, you understood how to ship items. And so was that a big part of your success, is seeing, okay, the plan and how you could actually implement this idea?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's probably one of as a visionary, one of the skill sets that you have, and I don't have many, but this is one, but is seeing things that other people may not necessarily see or catch, right?
Mm, yeah.
Seeing opportunities. So yeah, for sure. And that's really what drove me when I was with UPS, and what drove us into the consulting business, is being able to solve problems that people didn't realize that they had, and kind of seeing those things before they could see them. And this was another kind of perfect example of that, is just, wait a second, I can't be the only one that has this problem. So yeah, that's definitely the thing that opened those doors for us, for sure. I still think that there's a component too of it that's, you know, to your point earlier, it's funny because my wife and I talk about this all the time. We did a very thorough, um, you know, look through the hotel room before we left.
Mm,
We're very conscientious people. So for us to, it's funny because I hear some horror stories in the hotel industry, as you can imagine, of what goes on in rooms and how they're left.
yeah.
But Lane and I have always been the type of people that, hey, this is, somebody's going to come in this room and clean it up. And the last thing they need to see is somebody that disrespects them by
Right.
just absolutely trashing the room. So we generally, pull the bed sheets up. It's very tidy. all the garbage is consolidated type of thing. So that's just kind of who we are normally. So it's interesting to look back at this situation because we looked through the room. I distinctly remember standing at the door while Lena just did one last tour, and that shoe was not visible. And I don't know how you'd hide a shoe in your blankets, but
I, well, it was
so it's just an interesting story how this
meant to
came
be.
about it from a timing perspective,
Yeah.
and just yeah. So
It's a good origin story. I mean, forgetting a shoe, people can resonate how frustrating that would be. Oh, I got one shoe and I got to get it back. So, I think that this the story would. I know for me, it's like if I forgot my shoe, I'd be like, oh bugger, I got one shoe. It's not like I can walk around with one shoe. I got to get the other one back. I
yeah,
have to
yeah.
get the other one back because I'm not going to throw out my one shoe. I got to get the other one. So,
And how did I do that? How did I put only one shoe
yeah,
in the
yeah,
bag? Like, was my brain completely
yeah,
detached from my body
yeah,
when I put one shoe in the bag and didn't
yeah.
go, where's the other one? It just doesn't make any sense, right? So, but it's
So
funny. I've become our number one customer since we started this. Never left anything behind in a hotel, and now it seems like every time I travel, it's
yeah.
like I can't believe I left something again.
Well, and I would think that when you're traveling, it's probably not a bad idea to purposely forget something and test them out. It's like that might be a good reason. It's like, oh, by the way, I do have this. If they don't have, if they're not a subscriber to you, it's like, oh, by the way, I do have a potential solution, and why don't you just test it out on this one? It'd be a good road trip, good write off there for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to lead generate, right?
I get lots of offers from my team, let me tell you.
That's great. Well, we from our conversation earlier, Paul, it's very clear that delegation is one of your superpowers. And so you've scaled up, you got like 18 team members, and so you oversee, I mean, millions of shipped items and on an ongoing basis. And so I'm curious, tell me and tell the listeners a little bit about your, we'll say, thesis around delegation and getting things done. So maybe you could kind of share some of the insights that you learned from going from, just you and Lena from an idea to overseeing, you got 18 people that you're overseeing. It's a big organization.
Mhm. Yeah. Again, I think it goes back to, making sure that you've got like-minded people that are working with you and get the vision and get what needs to be done and are excited about it. That, again, see the vision, get it, and want to be part of that. So I think that's a big part of it. Um, certainly making sure people have the capacity and the skill set to do the things that need to be done, and then letting people just do their thing. That's really, from my perspective, what it comes down to is doing the best that you can with what you have, getting to that point where you recognize we're going through an executive hire right now. Um, it's interesting that since the pandemic, we have done absolutely zero sales and zero marketing. We just feel like, we were getting back into things, and we needed to do things slowly and methodically because we took an absolute pounding. We went down to less than 3% of the volume because nobody was traveling.
Right.
We made a quick decision to shut things down as quickly as we could so that we could see if we could survive. We really didn't get back on any type of path until significantly into 2021. So it was really just kind of taking things very decisively, if you will, on how we come back from that. Because again, we were all uncertain as to, could this happen again very quickly? Could they shut us down again? You don't want to be overstaffed. You don't want to put people in that position. You don't want to put your business at risk again. So, we kept it really lean and mean. But the one thing that we've always stayed focused on that has really driven our business is our approach to our relationship with our customers. They are everything to us. It doesn't matter what the problem is. We deliver a concierge level of service for everyone, not just the hotels. We provide service to the guests. If they, if it's an older person that's not comfortable with technology, they can't figure out how to make things work, one of our support team will give them a call and help them process their return. If they put in the wrong address, we'll follow up with the courier company, find that package, get it properly redirected, and get it on its way. If there's been a damaged item in transit, the hotel doesn't have to deal with that. We're the liaison between the guest and the hotel and the courier company to resolve those things. So from that standpoint, the hotel partners that we have just are so overwhelmed with working with a company that just does everything in our power to service them, that our business is 3 times the size that it was, almost 4 times the size that it was pre-pandemic. Wow. 100% because of word of mouth.
Word of mouth. So all your business is 100% word of mouth.
Yeah, it is. It is today. Wow. Prior to the pandemic, I spent, a lot of hours on the phone doing sales, and we did some trade shows and things like that. So we worked really hard to get the ball rolling, but it's really a testament to the relationships that we've built with our partners that, they tell everybody in the industry, they're all interconnected, whether it's through the brands or through a hotel management company. There's lots of hotel management companies that actually operate the hotels on behalf of the owners. So in our industry, it's a little bit unique. You probably know this well, but just for your listeners, it's not necessarily a Marriott or a Hilton or a Hyatt that operates that hotel. It's just the brand that provides a direction and a marketing tool, if you will, that people are comfortable that, hey, that's a company that hotel there is something that I'm familiar with. This is how they treat their guests, and I like that, so this is where I'm going to stay. But there's actually a different company that actually operates the business of the hotel, and quite often that's on behalf of somebody that owns the building and owns the business itself. So in all those cases, those relationships are incredibly important to us. And again, our partners recognize that we're going to do everything in our power to deliver the type of service that they would want if they have left something behind or their family had left something behind, and that everything is incredibly valuable and incredibly important. And to the point where we work really closely with our hotel partners, that if they're failing to respond to a guest in a timely manner, then we follow up with them and challenge them to do that more appropriately, if you will. So
yeah, that's incredible. So the customer service part of it is something that, like, that 5-star service is something that's really important. And so generating referrals is a natural byproduct. I think when people think of business, they think, marketing and sales. But if you can create a business where it's 100% referral, I would take that business all day long. All day long. You could add rocket fuel if you want with sales and marketing, but if it's taking off on its own, that means the product is unbelievable. So I mean, that you're in an ideal, perfect situation when it comes to a business, 100% referral. So other than the customer service, so going the extra mile and building your team around, like, really making sure that the hotels are serviced and the clients as well, so that everybody gets a great experience. Is there anything else that, do you ask for them to introduce to other hotels and make that introduction, or ask for referrals? Or is there anything outside of just doing good customer service and then them just doing it on their own?
At this point, no. We've done some referral based kind of marketing and communication to our partners in the past. It's not worked very well, to be really honest with you, which is very odd, because we've offered to give them a gift card to whatever they want, Starbucks or Amazon, and we've got some referrals for sure. But it's interesting that when we go through a kind of more of a formal referral process, it doesn't seem to pan out, even though they're being referred by somebody that they've worked with, and we get a little bit of background. We call up and say, hey, Jane over at the Hyatt place, that well, thought that you'd be really excited about this solution that we have. It's completely free. Here's what it's going to solve. rarely did we ever get a partner that registered from that. So the referral program that we don't have in place seems to work really, really well. And the referral program we did have in place didn't work at all.
Well, and it goes back to the testament of how powerful the service is. And I think that's where if you can make your service as strong as what yours is, and that's super sticky and catchy because it's such a big problem that people are like screaming for an idea. Like somebody should create this and nobody's done it yet, but you have. And so that's where I think as a business owner, if you, I mean, it's this almost like this scale where you have, if it's like a wow product or service like what you're offering there where there's such a large demand, it's like word will spread and you can pay zero marketing and sales. On the other end of the spectrum, if your service is really horrible and you spend enough on sales and marketing, you're still going to you're going to do business. Maybe your profit isn't as strong. And so that's where it's like the goal is you want to build your service in such a way. That's why, like on Faris Team and Faris Capital, it's like we're big on best experience in the world. Like that's where that's like a mission that we're on, that we're constantly looking to improve. And we know that the better we get, the more referrals. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where for us, we do, it's for us, it's a balancing because there's the marketing and sales. We want to keep that strong so that we're top of mind, especially on the real estate agent side. There's like over 2 million realtors in that business, so it's easy to go with a friend if we're top of mind. But we know that if we'll do excellent service, we're going to get those referrals on that end. And so your business is such a great example of being on that spectrum of being like such a wow. It handles such a big product that it's spreading on its own. And I think that's where, as a business starting out, you want to make it as screaming awesome as possible.
Mm.
But if you can match that with marketing and sales, if you need a little bit of top up, I mean, that's where you can really, blow it up. In this case, for you, it's interesting. The referral, maybe it's just, as the business, it's such an insider who is a big thing. And that's where like the introductions, everybody knows everybody else. It's like you almost need to get in the club, which you're in the club now. So now you're
Yeah.
getting those introductions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you're bang on. My experience working with the Faris team going back a few years ago was exactly that. You guys knock it out of the park from a relationship perspective. The personal approach, and then your marketing is second to none. We were again as clients of yours, we were absolutely blown away at the experience that you guys provided. All the way through, because we bought the house initially in town through Thomas, and then Joel. We didn't have a relationship with Joel at the time, but we reached out, and Joel was who we were connected with. Actually, I think a friend of ours actually told us about Joel, so we got connected with Joel to sell the house. Bought here with his help, and now become really close friends with Thomas since that time. But yeah, our experience was exactly the same way working with your team. Just incredibly impressed with the relationship side and the attention to detail, and your approach to how to sell the property is still just outclassed everybody in the marketplace, in my opinion.
Well, thank you for that. And we did not pay Paul to say that. There was no sort of pre-conversation, pre-conversation
Yeah.
on that, but I appreciate it. We work hard for that. Um, so Paul, changing gears a little bit, as a business owner, there's habits that you've maybe developed or have done on a regular basis. Maybe it's not every day. Maybe it's like once a week, or maybe it's it's less. We'll say by the book. But there's something that you do on a regular basis that has provided really big results as a business owner and entrepreneur. Is there anything that comes to mind that you've implemented since becoming a business owner that's helped you be more successful?
Yeah, for sure. Reading,
Okay.
self-education is critical. It's critical in every component of your business, because again, from my perspective, um, although I grew up in an entrepreneurial minded family, I watched them struggle, feast, famine, feast, famine, feast, famine. So not a lot of opportunity to, kind of glean the skills and the requirements to be a leader and to lead this many people. So again, you know, it has to be done through putting in the time and the effort and investing in yourself, investing in your education, investing in understanding what, you know, what business is all about, how to treat people, how to hire people, business operating systems that are going to function well and keep your teams aligned and help you to deliver the vision that your teams need and new people need to see and understand and connect with to be able to grow. So from my perspective, it is, you know, it's all about continual growth through that process and never feeling like you got it figured out. If you think you have it all figured out,
Hmm.
I think you probably haven't.
Yeah, well, you're not pushing because whenever you're pressing the envelope when it comes to business, is like I call it like the game of whack a mole. You know that game where it's like I think I got everything, and then another one comes up is like whack,
Yep.
right? And you're trying to hit everything, but the reality is when your role, like when you're taking on new and bigger challenges, is like you're going to hit roadblocks. It's like you just got to figure out how to get over that roadblock, and that forms as it looks like a problem or a challenge or like a wall or a barrier that most people would just say, okay, I'm not going any further. But that's what makes successful people, is like learning and overcoming that wall, so to speak, or that challenge, and getting past it, and then eventually you hit another wall and then another wall. And that's where what I found is the more, we'll call it quote unquote success in regards to sales and business and whatnot, that it's just like you're handling bigger problems and challenges. That's just, and probably from when you started till now, it's probably it's eye opening. I would think that your challenges that you're taking on today, we're dealing with $1 million decisions, not so much like $100 decisions, so to speak.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, how about making decisions, Paul? So, you're making a lot of decisions on a day-to-day basis. Are there any like values or filters that help you make good quality decisions?
I think one of the most important things that I have learned is a good business operating system. Whether it's you're probably familiar, whether it's a scaling up or an EOS traction type. I think having systems and processes in place help you align your team, help you prioritize the decisions that really need to be made now, and not getting, as you know, as a business owner, there's a million things coming at you at the same time. And you've got to be able to go, okay, does this align with our priorities for this quarter? And if it doesn't, then I need to set that aside and deal with that later. So that I think is a critical component, is having your priorities, making sure you've got those identified, keeping them to a bit of a minimum so that you can get your arms around the things that need to be accomplished, and you know do the best that you can to accomplish those things in the timeline that you're given so that you can move on to other things. So I think a business operating system is really, really important in the growth of a company, and especially as you get to size, making sure that everybody's pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, Paul, that is a real wisdom nugget you just dropped right there. And one of the things that when you start on your own, you're managing your own self, right? And like that's fine, but when you hire one person, now you have two-way communication, and you hire three people, or say you got now there's three of you hire one more, so there's three of you. That all of a sudden there's communication, not just two-way, but now you got like you got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's like your six ways of communication. So your complexity grows immensely, and then you add a fourth person. Well, that adds another layer of complexity as well. And so that's where this operating system that you're talking about, like EOS or scaling up, and like your meeting rhythms, it is so powerful and so important as you start to grow. And one of the ways that I learned that was with the feedback we were getting as we were growing. They're like, I don't know what's going on. This person talks to this person. Nobody's talking to me. It's like decisions are being made. I'm like, huh. I'm like, I probably am not the only one that have dealt with this problem before. So that's when you start diving into the scaling up, and you start getting into the meeting rhythms,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it changed the game for communication and accountability in those meeting rhythms. When I say meeting rhythms, like for example, so you have context. We have 5 huddles a week. So every morning at 8:30, we have a coaches, our managers. They're 8:30 till 8:45, max 15 minutes, not 20, 15 minutes. And then we have a level 10 meeting on Wednesdays, and that's from 8:15 till 9:15. So it's about an hour. I know they say 90 minutes, but that's a weekly where we go over all of our key metrics. We go over all the priorities, make sure everything is in green. So anything in yellow and red we're talking about, we're moving. And then we talk about any weekly, we identify, discuss, and solve any sort of main big issues for the week. And then if there's anything larger, like you said, we push it back to the quarterly meeting. So, but those placeholders are in place. And so overwhelm as a business owner comes when you have, that's how you tame a lion. A lion, you can tame a lion by holding up a stool with 4 different, we'll say, legs, and the lion gets docile because you got 4 things coming at him. But as a business owner, when you have 4 more things coming at you, you become docile, just like a lion, because you're overwhelmed. And that's where stress comes in. And so these meeting rhythms, it allows you to kind of compartmentalize all these different decisions that need to be made in a systemized approach, so that you can then make quality decisions along the way, and you're not missing things, and you feel more in control with those meeting rhythms as well. And so that's where I just wanted to build on what you said, Paul, because it's so deep and so powerful. As you grow and scale, I found that in order to do it effectively, you have to adopt that mindset that you just said in regards to building we'll say a cadence, or whatever your model is, that an EOS traction. If you just want to get started, Rocket Fuel is a good prequel to that book, Traction, and then scaling up as well. There's so much value in what you're saying. So, Paul, I just want to build on that. It was really great nugget that you shared there.
Yeah. Again, it just aligns the team. It keeps you focused on what the priorities are. Again, the challenge is scope creep. It's
Yeah.
everything that you seem to get in takes a life of its own, and having a
Yeah.
system, a business system that you can go back to the basics and go, okay, is this part of what we're working on this quarter, or is it not?
Yeah.
Okay, it needs to be, if you can discuss it and solve it in your meeting and move on, absolutely. You don't push everything off to that, to a quarterly, but again, if it's something that's more challenging, a bigger project that needs to be done, that can be done in a quarter. But there's lots of those. They come at us all the time. There's business opportunities you want to get into. There's cost containment. There's all kinds of projects in a business that, as you get bigger, you go, boy, oh boy, I didn't notice that was impacting our bottom line as much as it is. And we need to solve this problem because it's costing us a lot more than what we thought it was costing us. Because, when you have 2 shipments, it doesn't cost you a lot. When you have 20,000 shipments, it costs you a lot. So you got to solve those problems, but there's lots of them, and you just need to stop and say, okay, which 2 or 3 or 4 can we handle this quarter? We recognize that those other ones are valuable and important. Let's put them into the next quarter, but let's get solved what we can solve today and do what we can do today, and not feel like we're running around chasing 3 rabbits and going home
Yeah.
hungry.
Well, there's power in focus, and when you focus a company around a few priorities for the quarter, there's some real power in that. So, just such a great nugget there, 100%. So, changing gears a little bit. So now investing. So, entrepreneurs that are out there listening, they're making money in their business, and there's like a million different options when it comes down to investing for them. So, what advice or key lessons have you learned about investing that you could maybe give to the listeners out there?
Uh, Probably my best words of wisdom is, don't seek that from me. Seek that from the experts. I read a lot. So from my perspective, I certainly am not any type of investment guru. I've read the Dave Ramsey books and Entree Leadership, and and certainly having enough cash in your business is critical to allow you the flexibility to do the things that you need to do when you need to do them. And that was a challenging lesson to learn during the pandemic again, because we went from zero, we went from 100 miles an hour to zero, or down to 3 miles an hour in 2 weeks. For us, it was mind blowing. So, that's a lesson that we've learned since then. Again, thankfully, the Lord kept us alive and kept us moving forward and kept us going. But for the grace of God, we probably would have been dead and gone. But making sure that you have enough cash in your business is critical for growth and decision making. To me, is incredibly important. Investing in yourself, your education, and your team's education is incredibly important. Making sure that you're investing in the right people, bringing them into the team, that type of thing, I think is critical. And then that's probably where I would be comfortable in commenting on investing, because investing for me, it's back in the business, right?
Yeah.
It's hard pressed with the growth rate that we've had for me to put my money into anything else that would provide the return that this business provides back to us. So again, we recognize the fact that, hey, it's time we need to be doing a much better job of marketing and communication. And that's one of our primary goals right now, is to get the right person in the right seat, to get them doing the things that need to be done. We've been incredibly blessed with the growth rate that we have. And again, I think there's, some divine intervention, if you will, that's helped us with that. Certainly us being a good steward of, the opportunity that we've been blessed with, and treating people right has had a huge impact on our growth. But, these are the things that you need to invest in, are really your team, your business, and the direction that you're going in, and not get too scattered. Make sure that your foundation, it's funny, as business owners, once you start something, and you know this very well too, and that is, timing is everything. You make sure that you've got your base good and solidified, and the right people in place before you decide to go down another rabbit hole. Because I think, again, that fox that chases two rabbits goes home hungry is something that we can get sucked into as business owners. We see another opportunity, and you've got to be careful. Make sure your base is solid and secure. You have the right people running your business. You can remove yourself without impacting anything in your business. Then you can look at some other things from an investment standpoint, and maybe take on some other opportunities. But again, I think, again, back to the same thing, investing in yourself, investing in your businesses, I think, is critical.
I want to, there's some great advice there. And the question I have is, when it comes down to cash, which is oxygen, and this is a big one, that when you go through a cash crunch, is like, you don't forget the cash crunch. It's like, for the listeners out there, is like, you remember going through that, and it's like, and things can shift fairly quick. So I guess a question for you is, how much cash is enough cash? And so when it comes down, maybe if we were to break it down, of how many months of expenses would you say would be okay? I feel comfortable now when it comes down to, I have sufficient cash holdings. What would be the goal for that you'd recommend for the entrepreneurs out there listening?
That's a great question, of which I wish I would have read the book a little bit more recently to be able to state emphatically. But I think it's somewhere in the 6 months to a year mark.
Yeah.
Is certainly a very comfortable position to be in. You've got to be a little bit careful. You don't want cash necessarily sitting in a bank
Yeah.
specifically. You've got to be a little bit more strategic in what cash really means. But you need to be able to access cash quickly, efficiently and effectively, so that you can make decisions because opportunities come, but they come fast and they disappear fast. Right. And if you're not prepared and in a position where you can capitalize on that, and generally it requires cash, then you quite often miss that opportunity, and you have to let it go, or you do something dangerous, you borrow and you run yourself into the ground. So, yeah.
And that, I think that's such a great nugget there. And when you go and you look at like the big massive, the Apples of the world, and the Microsofts, and Alphabet or Google, the those companies have an exorbitant amount of cash. If you look at their financials, they have these huge cash balances there that are basically sitting there as reserves. And it's like, why on earth do they have so much cash? It's like, well, the main thing, the only real thing that can wipe a company out, I mean, reputation, but eventually they run out of cash. And so it's like it's oxygen. So these we'll say veteran business owners, they do it. And I
Mhm.
think that when you're growing, it is a challenging thing to make sure that you're growing and you're investing in growth, but at the same time you're protecting your backside, so to speak. And so I think moving forward, that is just a good, we'll say, keep in the back of your mind is make sure you got a little bit of a nest egg there that you can
Mhm.
access when things, or if it, because it's a when you're going to run into maybe cash isn't what you expected. And so we always have these big projections. Oh, we're going to keep growing by 20% every year forever. It's like maybe one year you drop by 20%. And so that's where stress testing the business is a good thing at the beginning of the year when you're setting your budget.
For sure. For sure.
All right, so this is a great conversation here, Paul, and I got 3 questions there, and we're going to wrap it up. You for rapid fire. You ready?
We'll see what we can do.
All right. So you said you're a reader, so I love reading as well. Curious what your favorite book is.
That's a difficult one. I'm probably going to have a little bit of a cop out here, but certainly would be the Bible for one. A lot of financial lessons you can learn in there, even though you wouldn't think that's the case. But there's a lot in there from
Hey,
a
100%, and like business, financial. Jethro, in his org structure and how he organized the reporting of the when they were out, Israel was out, and there was all the problems were going to Moses, and Jethro comes along and said, "Wait a sec, that's no good. Create an org structure like." That's a perfect org structure for business. Is just go to that chapter and read it, and it's like it's a rollout. So sorry, I didn't finish your thought on that, but definitely a lot of lessons there for sure.
no, that I agree with you 100%. There's just so much in there on how to manage business, how to manage your finance structure, how to treat people. It's really the values that drive everything that we do. That approach every relationship as being valuable and important, and everybody is. Um, being a good steward of the things that you're provided and the opportunities that you're given. Being a good steward is incredibly important. So there's just so much in there from a life perspective and from a business perspective that I think we can all learn from. And there's, again, back to reading. There's tons of books out there that have had that have really had some impact on my life over the years. I spent a lot of years in the back of my dad's car on road trips, listening to Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, and those things had a huge impact on my life, um, and where I'm at today for sure.
Yeah. Well, the great names there that you shared. That's perfect. Next question we have. So people that know you best, Paul, what would be the 3 words they'd use to describe you?
I cheated a little bit on that, and I asked my team. So the words that they came up were visionary, trustworthy, and consistent. So I cheated again. It's funny because some of them came out, and I'm like, I can't say that. I'm not. That's not coming. You can say that, but it's not coming out of
Yeah,
my mouth
yeah,
as what
yeah,
somebody else might say about me. That
yeah.
seems a little egotistical.
Quick question I have for you is consistent. What helps you be more consistent?
I think again, it comes down to values. Um, I really do think it's going back to those biblical values of how you want to be treated and treating other people the same way, with respect and decency and grace. We're all going to make mistakes. I probably make more mistakes than anybody out there. As I said earlier, I'm our best customer. I leave things behind more than anybody else does now. But recognizing that we're all broken and and need grace just makes it so much easier to treat people similarly, and we can grow together, and working with people that get that and understand that, and that are, we like to say around here, we like to hire adults that don't need to be, you don't hold unless it's your wife, you don't hold another adult's hand, but you hold your kids' hands. They got lots of things to learn. They need to be protected, need to be safeguarded. So when you hire people that are adults and want to be treated as such, then, approaching everybody with grace and openness is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, there's some sound wisdom there. Last question I have is, what advice would you give an entrepreneur that's listening? What final advice would you have for them?
I think do your market research. It's funny. I go back to our origin story, and everybody told us. So one of my contacts that's become a really close friend, right very beginning, one of the first hotels that asked us to come down into the Orlando area and tell us what we were doing. This is like probably in the first 5 hotels that we had on board. Said, "Oh my goodness, remember me when you buy your private island in the Caribbean." And it was like, "Oh, somebody in the industry is telling me this thing's going to blow up. This is going to be awesome." And, again, had the vision, had the idea of where this could go. But you get a little excited and you get a little overwhelmed and you get heading down the road. And I think, for new entrepreneurs, absolutely, you need to know where you're going. You need to see the opportunities, to see where you could be in 10 years' time, but realize that this is going to take more work. Business is not easy. There's more people that fail. We all know that there's more people that fail in this than succeed at it. And so be patient, be kind to yourself, be tenacious, work hard, dig in. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to blow up in your face. That's the lottery. And yeah, there are some stories out there of companies that have started and have blown up overnight. And we all hear those stories, but the reality of business is it's tough. Not everybody can do it, but it certainly is rewarding. It's exciting. There's nothing like, being your own boss and setting the pace and being rewarded as such. So I think it's be realistic initially as to what this is going to take, because again, you can burn yourself out. There's so many entrepreneurs out there, again, that think this thing's going to blow up overnight. I can go buy myself a nice car and, and I got to get my office set up with all leather furniture and a big fancy desk. And I need to have this office and, all of these things. No, you need to have a business that's functioning, that's standing under its own weight before you really start to enjoy kind of the fruits. So I think that's a big thing for entrepreneurs and I'm going through that right now with my son, who wants to start his own business. We're talking through, he's got to read some specific books before we'll help him get on his feet. He's got to have enough money put away to start on his own. There's a plan and there's a strategy behind this thing. And one of them is coming to the realization that, hey, you're not going to start tomorrow and sell 25 jobs. You'll be lucky if you sell a job in the next 25 days. And you need to know that that's what it takes.
Yeah, that is so good, because it's easy on social media to go on and like, oh, overnight success. Oh, I'm a multimillionaire business. Yes, yes. The interesting thing that really helped me, Paul, is that when you start a business, you got to think, okay, there's 10,000 things that need to be done here. 10,000. Not 500, 10,000 to be successful. You need to get your 10,000 things in. Now, whether that's 5,000 or 20,000, it's a big number, 10,000. And so when you know you got to get 10,000 things done, then you're like, okay, I'm going to make a decision. Am I willing to stick it out to get my 10,000 things in or not? And
Yeah,
I think a lot of people think that, oh, in the back of their mind, only 500 things, and they get to 500 and they're not seeing progress. They still have, 9,500 things that they need to do, but they give up because they're not seeing progress. They don't see the true path of business is 10,000 things, activities
yes,
that actions that you need to do. And it takes a while. And
it does.
sometimes, it's 5,000 or 20, but if you start and you're like, I'm going to get my 10,000 in, you I think it changes your perspective. You're like, okay, when I hit a roadblock, it's not if, it's when you hit the roadblock, you're ready saying, okay, you know what, this is just a roadblock, but I need to do X amount more because I got to get around this roadblock. And then there's going to be other roadblocks, but I'm just going to keep on moving. And that seemed to help me put things in perspective, because it's like we all have this instant gratification, like we want it,
Yeah.
but business is not, the real business is not really not like that, which you just said so eloquently as well.
Well, I don't know about eloquently, but I did
Well,
say
it is
it.
perfect. And I think that's where, your son's a really good reference and example for that. I believe, a lot of people say about the new, generation coming down the pipe, they don't know how to work and whatnot. And I don't know, my experience is that there's some really intelligent young people that are out there that are willing to work hard. But one thing that is because we have a young staff over on Fair's team, primarily on Fair's Capital, we're a little more seasoned there. But uh, I found that the young generation, they are willing to work extremely hard. But what is more important that I've realized with them is that they need a very strong purpose. It's like, why am I coming in? I want to be part of something bigger, and I want to know that I'm growing and developing. I'm not just coming in for the paycheck. It's important, but it's not the most important thing for me. I want to be a part of something that is making an impact in this world. And I found once we tapped into that, it's like we have some I just met with a number of them earlier, our frontline managers. They are just extremely talented and driven too. And so I just think if you can tap into that purpose side of it as well, and then have that 10,000 activities in part of your mind, it should, help moving forward.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. All right. So if anybody wants to, I mean, your website's pretty straightforward, but tell the listeners how they can check you out, or maybe they know a business or a hotel owner that would be like, oh, you got to check this out, where they can maybe forward and make that introduction there for you. But what's the best way they could reach out and learn a little bit more about your business?
Yeah, for sure. Again, it's just ileftmystuff.com is really the best place to learn about us. For sure. We don't have a lot of social media presence, as you can imagine. It's such a niche solution in this industry that marketing on Instagram or Facebook or any of those type of things really don't drive too much in the way of new engagement for us. LinkedIn a little bit, but again, embarrassingly, haven't done as much in the last 5 years from a marketing perspective as we should be and will be. But certainly can find us on online at ileftmystuff.com or ilostmystuff.com, or I won't share the other ones. They're a little too derogatory.
Well, Paul, what a great conversation with you. Congrats on your success, and
Thank you.
congrats on having an idea and executing and pulling it together. So and we'll take a rain check, and we'll have maybe a coffee down in the on your dream beach down the road as your business continues to
Yeah.
explode. So uh,
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Really appreciated the chat, and all the best.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks for listening, guys. If you enjoyed the show, please share and subscribe to the channel, where we are building a community of up and coming entrepreneurs. And if you are looking to invest in real estate, take a look at fulloutinvesting.com. You can check out our 10-step full out investing process, where we're buying apartments down south, and you can see a sample deal on there as well. Paul, really appreciate you coming on the show. Just remember, guys, the fastest way to build wealth is to grow your business and invest in real estate. I love you guys.